friend of mine would say, when I went over to the golf course one day on Saturday afternoon, I had a suit on, walking there, get up, so you're marrying or burying someone today? I said, today's a wedding. Stop by for a cocktail before the wedding. I said, today was a wedding a couple years ago on Saturday. It takes a lot of effort. Well, you better have a good. That makes you feel better about yourself.
I know.
I'm ordering a double Big Mac meal and a Diet Coke. Just makes you feel a little bit better about yourself.
Yeah, it's all about limiting your carb intake.
All right, 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to the February monthly meeting. First course of business. Take a look at the November 24 minutes. And if you aren't here, then it would probably be appropriate to abstain. Is there any concerns on the November minutes?
Well, I wasn't here, but I see some. I'm sure it is in good.
Yeah.
Maybe does John need to look at that? Or we're in good shape, right?
Yes.
Okay. I missed that.
And then, of course, me not here. I'll give you this.
Okay.
Me not being here. Is this an insurance policy, or we have like a policy for a code of conduct for?
Yeah, I misspoke, and that was at the December meeting. Yeah, these are the December minutes. We're going around on the November.
Yeah. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
I was like, wait a minute, where is that?
I pulled up the wrong.
I was gonna bring that up tonight.
Yeah. All right.
Since you're on it already, it should be general liability insurance instead of public officials. I knew one of them was.
Yeah, well, since I wasn't here, I was like,
Yeah.
well, what kind of policy are these doing?
Yeah, it's general liability.
Because back when I was on the council, they had a council policy.
That's fine.
You good?
I just wanted, I'm just scanning here.
Yeah.
There, I got the.
So that's December. I don't have anything November, did you?
No. So I'll make a motion to approve the November minutes. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the December minutes. Again, it should read, or it reads correct. Rebecca took down the information accurate, but I should have spoken to say that it was general liability instead of professional insurance. Other than that, and what was pointed out already, do you have any?
No.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the December minutes as amended. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Steve, we'll turn it over to you.
All right, so I had 3 things that I wanted to cover this evening with the board. The first was an update on the work that you approved for Max Reiki that included doing a little wall repair on the west side of the channel, just the farmer's market, filling holes kind of all along the wall from Shawnee Mission Parkway to the north, and then doing tree removal pretty much from Merriam Drive all the way down to Shawnee Mission Parkway. Due to weather and snow and rain, they have not started that work. They've actually had some turnover at Max Reiki. The gentleman that I've been working with is no longer there. So when I inquired as to whether or not the work had been started, response in some form or fashion was pretty much like, yeah, we should probably review that work with you before we get started. So I'll probably end up going out sometime this month with those guys just to walk it and kind of point everything out that they had quoted us. Second item was, as it starts to warm up, I wanted to inquire to see if we wanted to set groundhog traps again this season. Okay. Everybody's nodding, yes, okay. So I'll go ahead and get with Catch It Wildlife, so they can provide it. Let's see. Eric, you want me to work with you on a quote? I'm assuming their prices are more or less the same as they were last year. We would like to get the traps out in early March.
Yeah, I think March is what we did last year.
So I guess, well, with the next meeting on March the 3rd, that should be time. That should have enough time for me to get a quote provided to the board prior to the next meeting, so we can, everybody can review it. And then I'll have them lined up, assuming approval, so they can get out there. Okay. That was the second thing. Third thing, updates on the Corps of Engineers. So they have developed their 30% set of plans, which shows wall and levee along the creek from Shawnee Mission Parkway up north to the Merriam Drive Bridge. Not that much different from what was shown in the original plan the Corps put together. There's some areas where they have more wall or less wall, and other areas where they have more levee or less levee. They haven't, there hasn't been any substantial change in the height of the levee, nor, excuse me, are they quite sure what they're going to do with the Johnson Drive or Merriam Drive bridges at this point. They did issue a design contract to another consulting firm, actually HNTB, to do a study to look at different options for those two bridges to see what could be done. They have not finalized that contract, nor has HNTB started working. The only other update is with projects of this size, the Corps goes through a process called value engineering, where they kind of bring in an outside group, and this group brainstorms a whole bunch of different ideas that could make the project better. Just what I call it value engineering, is provide more value to the owner, or it could cost less, or a combination of both. They started that process last month, and actually I've attended a couple meetings, one that was kind of a kickoff, then one where this group submitted kind of all their ideas. There's another group, or excuse me, there's another meeting here in a couple of weeks where the Corps is going to discuss which of those ideas they want to move forward with. So some of the ideas, for example, were, well, maybe at the Johnson Drive Bridge, we excavate the creek down and lower the creek, so maybe we can keep the walls so they're not as high. Moving the wall or the levee around a little bit more, things like that. The upcoming meeting is for the Corps to decide which ideas that they'd like to investigate more. So it doesn't mean that they'll accept them or they'll move forward with them. They just thought they were worth looking at more. Because of course this value planning process is essentially a whole bunch of engineers sitting around the table going, "Oh, I think that'd be a great idea. Maybe they should look into that." So if the Corps moves forward with those ideas, the first step is to really kind of dive into the details and see how applicable they are. Some of the ideas were setting aside Corps standards, which seemed overly strict or not really applicable to this project, but yet added a whole bunch of cost. There were kind of technical details, what kind of soil and how much compaction to use on the levee, those sorts of things. So all of that to say, they continue to move forward, but there's currently not a lot of changes to share with the board.
So is the Corps driving the value process?
They brought in a company that specializes in it.
Okay. And to date, they've completed 30%, like you had indicated. And that was 30% of the
Design place.
design phase.
Correct. They still have not generated a cost estimate. And as I believe I've reported before, the Corps is having to go back to the federal government to ask for more money because the money that was included in the initial authorization won't cover the construction cost. So,
How much, what was that? Was that approximately?
30 plus.
That's what I think it was.
Do you think they'll get any more money?
You can tell me what the federal government's gonna do. They are taking a look at it from that standpoint as well, though. If this is all the money we get, what can we do that still provides value to the community, but might not be the entire project?
So that's the amount already appropriated, that's.
No, it's been appropriated.
Appropriated.
Yeah,
That's
yes.
what I meant, yes.
Yeah, there's just, yes, they would use just the funding that has been appropriated. Yeah. So they're not quite ready to go down that road, but that is something they are definitely thinking about.
Okay. Any questions?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Jim?
Well, let's start with a little housekeeping. It'd be a good idea to have the board approve Eric's payment of last month's bills. As you will recall, the board decided quite some time ago to give him the authority to sign checks up to $10,000 so that if we have things like blizzards, we can still stay current on our payments. But he can take care of that. But I think it'd be a good idea to have some retroactive, if you will, authorization or approval of his payment of those bills. So motion to do that.
You want that now, or when we pay bills?
Either way, do when we pay bills.
For
The other thing, I'm sorry,
January.
for January, yeah.
The ones that would have been signed in January,
for the
except for the blizzard.
The other thing I wanted to mention is, I talked to Jolene Robbins, our insurance agent, about our coverage in connection with the recent audit and everything else that we had. And there's one thing I want to investigate a little further. She mentioned that there would not be coverage under our current policies if, for example, my professional advisor, Steve's or John's, was incorrect and the board followed. I'm not, and she said you need a professional liability policy for that. I'm not quite sure. I want to talk a little bit more about what triggers that kind of liability and that kind of coverage, because I wasn't really comfortable with her explanation. Not that I've been critical of her, we were kind of hurried and I just don't think I got the full story. But I'd like to investigate that and find out what that would cost, because, if I suggest you do something and you end up all getting thrown in jail, or Steve causes a bridge to fall down, or John causes us to go broke, you probably want to have coverage for that. So I want to check, number one, to what extent would that policy provide coverage, and number two, what's it going to cost? So I'll try to report back, hopefully next meeting, give you more information on that. I just get a little nervous when the agent suggests that there might be a little gap in protective coverage for insurance. Many years ago, this organization had no insurance at all, and I think what we're seeing now is a great step forward. So I'll report back, just want to kind of give you that heads up, that's what I'm looking at.
I have a question then about that. So since you all who are good advice work for a company that's backing you, wouldn't the company you work for, insurance cover that if you gave us wrong advice and bad advice? So we wouldn't need that expense, maybe the companies already have that.
It should, I mean, I've got professional liability insurance.
Yeah, I'm sure we've got a professional liability policy.
I just wanna see if there's another layer that you might be interested in, so. Another layer of coverage.
Just don't want redundancy.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, when it may, and this may be the point there, because I've seen other ones, maybe a policy that protects you
Yeah.
as board members. Our policy would protect us, but would not provide any coverage to the board members. Should the board members, if I'm going, if the board members would be sued, I mean, you could come after our professional liability policies, but those would not extend to you as board members.
I'm thinking more of it as a
Yeah.
situation where third party, some citizen is somehow injured by something that one of us does, then before our liability policy kicks in, do you want separate coverage for yourselves, particularly with respect to cost of defense? Because if something bad happens, I work on the assumption that everybody's gonna get sued and everybody's gonna have to pay lawyers, so that's one of the reasons you have insurance, is to defray that cost. Just
So,
whether you choose to do anything with it, it'll be up to you, but I want you to have the information so you know what's on the menu.
so maybe we need certificates of insurance from all of our staff's insurance.
Kind of segueing in on the insurance audit that I was reading, some of the stuff is what the auditor was asking for at the last, was he wanting certs from?
The last email,
Yeah.
he only wanted them from Steve.
So, if I understand this correctly, the certificates that the three currently have are, do not give us an umbrella. It's strictly for yourselves, basically.
Not directly, if I do something, if I ever make a mistake and a claim's made against me, I have insurance to cover that. But I'm thinking more of a situation where, I'm gonna pick on Steve, because it's easier to think of that. He passes muster on some design, and somebody steps on the wall and caves in and it hurts. Would we have covered, and we, board, I should say, we, the drainage district, gets sued without having to go against Steve's liability policy, would there be independent coverage? That's what I wanna check with Jolene. It seems to me there are some situations where that could happen. And again, if it doesn't cost very much money, it might be something you want to get just out of abundance of caution. If it's very expensive, it might be something you don't want to get, but that's just a question. You need to have the information, you need to have the data in order to make a sound decision. But I want to get more information from her as to what it covers and what it doesn't cover, but the way she explained it is if the drainage district engages professional services, and those professional services somehow result in damage to someone else, in order for the drainage district to have coverage, it needs to have a professional liability policy. That was my understanding, but I won't confirm that. And I'm certainly not an expert on all different lines of insurance, but by any means. But I think that's a plausible circumstance that could happen. And whatever decision you make, I want it to be a knowing decision with appropriate data and information.
To continue your hypothetical, wouldn't the board have to sue my firm in order to engage my insurance?
Yeah.
So that way you guys wouldn't have to sue me in that sense.
If we had professional liability.
Potentially, yeah, that's kind of what it sounds like, because you couldn't, the board couldn't be covered by Benish's policy.
No,
Right. But so in a sense, providing a cert really, I mean, you guys providing a cert, having us as a holder wouldn't really fly.
you can't be an additional insured on a professional liability policy because they only insure the professional. And it's usually see that as an exception in various contracts where it says it's additionally certain except for workers' comp and professional liability policies. The professionals, professional liability policy. I just want to look into that and see if there's maybe a little gap in coverage that is leaving the district exposed.
Okay, so does that answer then what you were thinking as far as?
Yeah,
having
I mean, we might wanna, if we have our own individual insurance people, we might wanna ask about that, cause
Yeah, by all means.
that's, as a small business, I give a certificate of insurance to anybody I work for, which covers, my insurance covers them too if something gets messed up, so it seems to me like it worked both ways.
Okay. Can you talk to Julie about that?
I'm sorry.
Particular,
I'm sorry.
whether or not certificates from you guys would impact anything?
So I'm having trouble hearing. Got my bad ear.
Okay, whether or not certificates would impact, would fix not requiring professional liability insurance.
Yeah, I'm just not understanding the question. Sorry.
Dan had brought up that if
Yeah.
we all provided the certs, or you guys provided certs, would that take care of the professional liability insurance?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Again, you know, I'm not an expert on coverage, that's why I wanna talk to Jolene, but I don't think so. I think there's kind of a whole.
Okay, so that'll be part of the discussion that you'll have with Julie?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I understand. Good. Okay. Anything else? So you good? All right. Since this is kind of, in the area of insurance, Rebecca, have we finalized the insurance audit, or is it still, right,
I'm waiting for his certificate,
okay,
and I just need to let him know that Max Recam provided the quotes. He's gonna send them all one email,
right, okay,
and that's it.
okay. Just part of the renewal is, at least the last couple of years, the insurance provider that we've had is, has an auditor, a separate third-party company that does an audit on all the documentation, and it includes certificates, any work that's been done, who our contractors are, things of that nature. So we're about wrapped up on that. Should be shortly.
Standard practice.
My impression of dealing with Rebecca and the audit on this is that they don't understand what we do. It's because it's kind of an unusual governmental entity. It's not a city. It's just kind of a specialized governmental entity. So they were asking like who owns it and things like that. That's about ownership.
Or if the board members did maintenance on the levy, you guys actually went out and did anything. It's like, no.
You ready to go out there and dig?
We don't need Reiki anymore, we're digging up the trees on our own.
Yeah,
We better get some more insurance.
Yeah, that's where the work comp shifts.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Where have we gone?
Okay, so as we look, one of the last. Total right now, expenditures for the year have been $57,675. And so, we've got channel maintenance budget of $118,500. And so we've only spent $3,000 of that, so far this year, plus the $62,260 from Max Reiki. So, question then becomes, do we wanna, are there any things we need to encumber in addition to the 62,260, or do we wanna encumber anything more in case there's any more work that they do, for that project?
I believe the trees were the 62,260. The whole repairs were quoted at 15,000.
50, okay, so there's another
750.
Okay.
And then the wall repair was quoted at 9,800. So a grand total of 87,810.
Okay. So that would be the amount, if we think those are good, solid without any overruns or, I mean, you could encumber more if you wanna just cover it and make sure it's out of budget, and if you don't spend it, it just lapses and goes back into the 25 budget if it's not all spent, so you're not out any money.
What do you think, Steve?
I think I'd recommend a little contingency.
That's what I
in
was
there,
thinking, yeah.
Just because it's taken them some time to get out there, and there's probably a few more holes now than there were when we walked it. I think 10 to 20% contingency on top of that would be sufficient.
So our budget authority then we can handle that.
Yes. Yeah, we've got plenty, I just looked on the one line, our total budget authority, is around 200,000. So we've got plenty of budget authority on there. I just kind of pulled out the channel maintenance, the total budget authority was 258,000. So we've got plenty of budget authority.
Okay. Well, 20% added on to what's already been quoted comes in at 105,370. Right there. Does that sound-
So then you say we already had 118?
That was what the channel maintenance budget was 118,500. If we just looked at that one line item, we spent 3, so we have 115,500. That in that line item for channel maintenance, that was still there. We have other expenses that we were under, so even with that, there's still more budget authority under that. But if we just look at that one line item for the channel maintenance, where that would come out of, we had 118,500 was our budget. We spent 3, so we have 115 available.
You want to do 150, encumber 115 from the 24 budget?
Sounds legit to me.
I mean, it's there in that way, even if they go above.
Allocated.
Yeah, it doesn't get spent, it's 115,500, so.
Okay. You saying 115?
I would go 115,500, that gets us up to the 118,500 that our channel maintenance
Just
line item
allocate
budget
the
was.
rest. Like whatever's left over
Whatever
after the
allocate,
3.
yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Okay. I'll make a motion to encumber 115,500 from the 2024 funds.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We still have plenty of money in the 25
Okay.
budget as well, if there's anything to add, that would be, we'd go there. We'd go to the 25 budget as well, if there's.
That makes that was almost a 30% overage that we just allocated for, right?
Yeah, it's set aside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that should be there, but if there,
Shouldn't
I'd
worry
say
too much
if there is
about
another project or something,
Yeah.
that they would find something significant when they do that, then we could look at it just look at the 25 budget. We have plenty of money in the 25 budget.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have.
All right, thanks, sir. Moving on to approval of bills presented for payment, as brought up before. I'll let somebody else, if they want to make a motion to ratify approval of January's checks.
I'll make that motion. January's bills, checks.
I have a second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I have one question before we go any farther, rewinding to Max Ricky on the trees. So prior to my being on the board, we pretty much used Max for tree removal on everything. Cause I took a walk down the creek this week, and the tree removal is supposed to take out, is it down the walls as well as along the path? Cause I've seen some pretty big trees growing out of the rocks, which are obviously larger than 1 year's growth. I mean, some of them
Some of them
are very pretty, obviously 3 or 4 or 5 years worth of growth on these trees. Are they not getting them all? I mean, obviously they're not getting them all. Or how are they taking them out? Are they just cutting them off and?
they cut them and spray them.
Okay.
Probably what you're seeing is just a section we haven't been to in a couple of years.
Because it was between Johnson Drive and the walking bridge at Shinomish Parkway. So just that one little half-mile section there.
Oh, on the south of Johnson Drive. Yes.
Yeah,
that's,
south, yeah.
That's the section we haven't hit that frequently. It's the section north of Johnson Drive that we hit more.
Okay, so they're more concerned with that area around the park then and the pavilion?
Yeah, the area south of the pedestrian bridge seems to just grow very quickly. So we're always, that's the piece that we've hit the most. And then a couple of years before you joined the board, we had them heavily clear north of there so we could walk along the back of the wall. Because there's the properties there, and a lot of them had the wooden fences. And then once we did that, then we had Mr. Maldonado start mowing through there to keep the trees down. So we have been focusing more to the north of Johnson Drive the last couple of years.
Okay. So those funds that we just allocated, is that,
That's from Merriam Drive all the way down to Shinomish.
so that whole run?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because there was some pretty big, I was like, wow, yeah, that's a whole tree.
Yeah.
So they cut them and then they'll spray the stumps.
Okay.
So they don't come back. Yeah, they do grow rather quickly. They're well watered.
Yeah, right. Not much water there.
Plenty of sunshine too.
All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Approval of bills presented for payment. Motion to approve bills presented for payment. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
One down, one to go.
These are, the charges that we've had on our cards for, payroll and those kinds of things, the QuickBooks, the general charges for, for November, December, January.
So this 133 for the QuickBooks, that's every month, huh?
It is, it's for the software and payroll.
election offices wanting an update on what our positions are.
That's what that is. And we'll get it. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Sure.
Sometime in June.
Yeah,
Second
I think we'll have to have it into them in May,
Yeah.
so I'm just gonna scan it, email it back.
Alright, now we come to the point where, is there any new business to be talked about?
Guess not.
Okay. That being said, our next meeting is March 3rd. And I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:36 PM. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Happy New Year.
Yes, you too, thank you.
You seconded that, correct?
I got a case of Girl Scout, didn't miss cookies. My little niece hits me up every year for it. I do. Happen during tax season, so.
And where are those at?
Yeah, I was gonna say. They're right over by my desk.
Let's use keyword being had.
Yeah, I got a whole case of them.
Keyword being had.
Just tell Gwenny, I said, just sign me up for a case of them, we'll eat them up during tax time.
That sugar rush hour.
Yeah. Throw them into the box into the freezer, everybody likes the Thin Mints frozen.
They're the best.
wow.
Frozen Thin Mints are the best.
Cookies, what their only source of fun.
If you don't like Thin Mints, I don't wanna be your
I
friend.
don't, put them in with a little ice cream.
These yours or Dan's?
Oh, those are mine. Thank you.
Alright, have a good night.
Crumble them up on some vanilla ice cream.
Right.
See, they're, what's it, they're good with the, mint chocolate chip ice cream.
But she was
Cookie crumbles on it.
Yummer says.
Blows my blood sugar off the roof.
Right?
I thought I could get it. I said, I think she was. I can get it.